Welcome to the POG Show. I'm your host, Christine Martindale, Public Information Officer for the City of Port Orange, a city in Central Florida that is unique by choice, not by chance. I will be bringing you powerful interviews and on-the-go info to gain a better understanding of the various services and functions our city provides. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, to episode 001 of the POG Show. So before I introduce my very first guest, I just want to say that I'm so excited to be starting this podcast. It's official. The city of Port Orange has entered into the podcast arena. People may be wondering what the name POG stands for. Well, POG stands for Port Orange Government, and this podcast is a way for our listeners, both near and far, to learn more about our city and the services and functions it provides. And it's a platform on how we can add value to the lives of others. We have many wonderful community partnerships that we'll be talking with about ways they also serve our community. So it's going to be so much fun. So now let me welcome my very first guest. I have the pleasure of introducing City Manager of the City of Port Orange, Jake Johansson. Hi, Jake.
Hey, how are you, Christine?
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you?
I couldn't be better. It's a Friday. It's the worst day of the week for me because I have to wait the entire weekend to be back with the team on Monday. But I get over it on the weekends.
Oh, that's great. We're here. We've been talking about doing a podcast for some time now, right?
Yeah, it's some time. It's always fallen onto the B and C list, either budget-wise or time-wise. But hopefully we can get something going. I'm very happy that you got the gear and the equipment to do it, and hopefully you'll be going around town interviewing people within the staff and outside the staff in the community, finding out what the great things in Port Orange, who's doing great things in Port Orange, and how they're contributing to such a beautiful city.
Oh, I know, absolutely. And so, we had started Port Orange University, our Citizens Academy, which has been just phenomenal, which of course I love doing. But this is just a way of getting out there more in the community. And, we've got our Facebook page and we have our website, but this is just another platform, another avenue just to reach our citizens and abroad, right? This will be on iTunes, so we'll be able to reach people outside of Port Orange.
You bet. One of my biggest frustrations is, especially during emergencies, is we put information out of an emergent nature about 8 different ways, yet somebody will call the city and say, I didn't know, or how was I supposed to know? So it's always a challenge to get out and reach everybody. I think this is just another way to do it. And, I applaud your efforts, by the way, at Port Orange University. That's something that I've seen other cities do, and it makes a ton of goodwill, and our citizens know how the city staff operates and can straighten out a lot of confusion out in town just by knowing that information. So that's great as well.
Yeah, and another thing with Port Orange University is, so it's a 9-week program, and you get to learn more about each city department, but it's establishing those relationships with the citizens. And that's for me, I just love, because you're establishing week after week, you're getting to know them, and they're also our ears and eyes outside the community too.
Absolutely. I think Chief Grimaldi has a see something, say something policy, and I think that's the same with citizens. Some people might say, they're always complaining. I'm saying it increases exponentially my eyes out in the city. If there's a pothole, I got to tell you, people on the staff, they work, they do phenomenal work. But after a while, you kind of get numb to a few things you see, and every once in a while, somebody will come out and go, hey, there's been a pothole, or I pick on potholes, for 2 weeks. And even I will go, I drive by that area. So for the past 2 weeks, I've driven by a pothole and not noticed it. So folks, that give us that information, it's a benefit to the city. We just try to get it fixed as quick as we can. So I applaud their efforts. Using the report a concern button on the website is the way to go that way. But any way we get the information, we'll take care of it.
Yeah. So, going back just a little bit, so you've been with the city for about 5 years now, right?
I have. 5 years in August.
Wow. Time flies, right? When you're having fun?
It does. It does. It's been a glorious 5 years. I've had a lot of fun. I've met a lot of nice people out in town. I've met a great staff. I think our staff is. I spent some time in the military before I came here, and one of the things that I wanted to try to instill is a culture of camaraderie and teamwork here, and I think we've come a long way. Not to say you weren't there when I got here, but we've come a long way advancing the efforts of Ken Parker and David Harden and Greg Casella, the guys that preceded me, in making this a cohesive team, and I very much appreciate it. And I've gotten to know what we have over 400 employees, and there's some names I still don't get, but for the most part, I've met or know everybody, and that's awesome.
And that was actually my next question in terms of what your background was before coming to the city of Port Orange.
So I joined the Navy in 1980, about 3 weeks after graduating from high school, with the intent of doing 4 years and going back to Western New York to be with my family and do something up there. And 36 years later, I retired from the 35 and a half years later, 36 years. I retired from the Navy from being the commanding officer of a naval base in Norfolk. And I was friends with a bunch of city managers in the area. They said, you do the same thing that we do, just not in uniform. You ought to consider this line of work when you get out. And, I'm motivated by public service. I really like helping people, defending the freedoms of our citizens and whatnot. So I thought it was a logical move. So here I am. Port Orange took a chance. I appreciate the council 5 years ago taking a chance on somebody that's never been a city manager before. I don't know if they're happy they made that decision or not, but here I am 5 years later.
Time goes by, and you being in the military, having a leadership style, I would call you more of a servant leader. That be your management style that you would have?
Yeah, I think you may have heard that from me before. Robert Greenleaf is not the inventor of servant leadership, but he's the first one that wrote about it. He wrote a paper called The Leader as a Servant. And, I kind of grasped a hold of that when I was an enlisted guy, when I first started out. And I found that by removing barriers for people that work with me, and I try not to say for me, and getting things done, it benefits you. You talked about relationships. You develop relationships, and it really works out well. And so I try to serve the citizens, I try to serve the elected officials, and I try to serve the staff, removing barriers so they can get stuff done. Not always easy. Some of those barriers are made of some heavy-duty cinder block, but we do our best.
We talk about, serving our employees and elected officials and citizens. 2020 was a year, and so with the pandemic, right? And so in terms of how we're not out of the woods yet with this pandemic, right?
Right.
But how we came through it with our employees. We had coffee with the city manager, and how you handled it dealing with not only citizens but our employees when it comes to this pandemic, because this is something maybe you have, but we haven't gone through something like this before, right? So
not this long and protracted, right? We've done we've been in 2 real hurricanes and 2 almost hurricanes since I've been here, and those come, we ramp up, we do the business we're supposed to do, we ramp down, we pick up the garbage, we clean up, and we move on. Except for FEMA. FEMA doesn't move on. We're still trying to get some money back. But the pandemic is long lasting, and from my military time, I don't think I've ever lived through a long lasting crisis per se. But if you look back at it, the Afghanistan, the Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom, those were long-term crises, but I wasn't the CEO of the business that was managing that. That was the Secretary of Defense and the President. So I was just a guy at the end of the whip doing the good work to keep us free. So this is tough. But when I went to Iraq with my squadron, brought 600 people over there, brought 600 people back. We served each other. We took care of each other. And I think that's the key point here in the city from a staff perspective, is that during the pandemic we take care of each other. I am very sensitive to and empathetic and sympathetic to people's feelings. Everybody's thinking something different, and sometimes you want to say, "Suck it up, Buttercup," but that's not the right thing to say, because you don't know what those people are going through. You mentioned coffee with the city manager. We do it virtually. We do it on Zoom, and there's a core group of people that want that, that almost need it. Some people just want to talk. Some people want to hear stories and get their mind off of what's going on. And I'm more than willing to take the time to do that. And again, it's serving those people. I don't care if 3 people show up on that Zoom call. I'll spend a half an hour with them if I can, and listen to what they have to say. And if they're quiet, if they want to hear stories, gosh knows, I got stories.
And that's true. I mean, this may be a new normal. We don't even know what normal is anymore. So I know, like you talked about the coffee with the city manager. Me being in the office, I actually enjoy that, because I get to know some of the employees that I didn't really get to associate, every day. I don't, associate with everyone every day. So it's
Sure.
nice to be able to have that. Maybe we can't come face to face, but over Zoom, it's really been great.
I've always found that if you develop a personal or semi-personal relationship with somebody, it's a lot harder to treat them poorly. And in this time in our nation where I pick social media, is it not easy to make somebody feel and look bad on social media? It's hard to do. There's 4 of us in this room right now. I don't think anybody would say some of the stuff we've seen on social media to each other in here. We might feel frustrated, but what comes out of our mouth is a very respectful conversation about our differences, and I think that's the key. You talked about relationships. Being relational and relational behavior is very important, and that's one of the things. I think I had an all-hands meeting when I first got here. You weren't here yet, and that's the first thing I said to everybody is I want you all to feel like a family. I want fire to love police. I want police to love Parks and Rec, and it's not a competition about money. It's not a competition about everybody. We got to cooperate to graduate. And I also told my department heads that you will be evaluated on how well you play in the sandbox together. If I got somebody that's not going to share their toys, they're not going to spend much time working for me. And they were already there. That's the good news. It's been a great group of department heads.
Yep. Anywhere from employees to citizens to local businesses. We've did a local campaign for this pandemic, and we've got the franchises here in Port Orange, but we also can't forget about the local businesses here too, and that's something that through this pandemic we've really been able to promote those local businesses with this campaign too.
I've always loved local small business. I lived in a town called Coronado, California, and it was they called it an island, but it wasn't. But you go over a bridge, and there's no. I don't recall there being any franchises there. It was all small business. You wanted something for plumbing, you went to the hardware store. You got your hair cut from Jimmy's mom, that kind of thing. So I fell in love with small business and local business when I was in Coronado. So coming here. I try to do that here too, and the city does too. We we support small business all the time. Not to say that I don't go to McDonald's for some fries every once in a while, but for the most part, there's a bunch of great small business here that we can support. And I know those people through the chamber, through Rotary when I used to be in Rotary, and I think they do a good job, and they're doing a good job in the pandemic as well.
They are. So what is your question for you? What is your vision for Port Orange, a long-term vision? What would you like to see? What would be your, I don't know, something, your favorite thing that you would want to see here in Port Orange?
Sure. So my view is that Port Orange is going to grow a little bit more. So my vision is to, I don't want to use the word educate, but inform our citizens on what our master plan says for economic development, what's already written, the plan, to make people familiar with that. So when growth comes, they go, I wanted that to be a cow pasture. Well, that's not what the plan says. It's just been that way for a long time. And to inform them of what it is planned to be, and then give them a little bit of a macro view of what Port Orange could be when we get built out, which we're almost there. If you look at some of the empty land on Williamson, after that, we're done, and then we'll start thinking about infill, right? Developers want a blank canvas, but when the blank canvas is gone, they'll start repainting over some of the old stuff, like down by US 1. So I would like to inform our citizens. I would also like to make sure everybody's on the same page when we talk about smart growth. Smart growth to me is a textbook smart growth definition. Smart growth to the person that doesn't want a storage facility next to their house is nothing in that property next to my house. So we got to be on the same page when we talk about whatever word we're using, in this case, smart growth. So, but I would like to see Riverwalk developed. I would like to see City Center as a campus, a shared campus between municipal services, Port Orange, the city of Port Orange, and Palmer. This could be a whole huge complex of campus-style living, which is smart growth, right? Walkable areas, and then we'll finish developing the Williamson corridor, add some parkland, hopefully out at the Karasi property, and that'll be it. I think we'll be built out. We need to expand our roadways, keeping in mind that Dunlawton's a state road, Clyde, Morris, Nova, and Williamson are county roads by and large, and we need to work together with those people to make stuff happen, and we are, but we're on their schedule. So same with Taylor and Pioneer Trail. And last but not least, the Pioneer interchange will be huge for Port Orange. It'll keep a lot of traffic of that Pioneer development that's happening out there off the Dunlawton interchange, which is very important to our citizens.
You know, when you talk about that campus feel, there we go again. I always think about relationships, right? I could just picture like a campus feel between here, City Center, and Palmer, and people walking, and again, citizens getting together with citizens and having that relationship feel.
We have a great relationship with Palmer College, and I would like to continue that. We've helped them, they've helped us, and tell me when you're driving down the road that looking to the right and seeing Palmer College is not value added to your day. It's a beautiful campus as it stands right now.
Absolutely. So, changing gears a little bit, so on a fun note, what do you like to do when you're not working, when you're not attending council meetings?
What's left? No, so
that's true. Weekends, I guess, right?
So I do. My family recently bought a camper. We're part of that. Okay, we can't do this. Let's do that. So we try to camp once or twice a month locally, within cell phone range of the elected officials. And as most of you know, I love fly fishing. So I try to make it out west for a week or two every other year. We just got back from a trip from Montana. I think I was in Wyoming before just after I got hired. and I try to spend time somewhere where there's trout. The good news is trout don't know about COVID, so they responded well to my fly when I was out in Montana. So that's kind of what we do. I have 3 sons. One of them's in college. The other 2 are baseball and soccer players, so we chase them around the state of Florida, and we haven't gone out of state yet, but the state of Florida, watching them play ball.
Sounds like a very jam-packed schedule you have, but
It's
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Is there anything one last point or question that you want to put out there to citizens or employees or anybody out in the community and afar?
Yeah, I would say for the citizens of our community to be engaged. Throughout the year, in my life, not just here, I hear people that are not happy with something in their municipality, in their state, and then you get down to talking to them, and you find out that they either didn't vote, or they've never been at a council meeting, or they've never been to the website, which has a wealth of knowledge. You just got to find it, and don't be afraid to call. We'll let you know where it is. But there's a lot of information out there. You see a yellow sign on the road that says public notice, you can call and get a voicemail, and we'll call you back in 24 hours because we have a whole list of calls that we have to answer back. Or you can go to the website, in our case, the community development website, and it's got the whole list of what's going on where. So you don't have to ask Mayor Burnett, hey, what's going on in the quarter of Klein, Morris, and Madeline? You can just look on our website. I know it's easier to call the mayor, but the mayor takes that voicemail. He flips it to me. I flip it to Tim Berman in community development, who flips it to Melanie, who looks on the website and answers it. So, and that takes 24, 48 hours. So when you can get your answer in 5 minutes if we teach people how to fish. So get involved, know what's going on in your city, do what you can to not be the person that didn't know. We communicate on Facebook, we communicate on our webpage, we communicate on Twitter, we communicate on WSBB, we communicate on WNDB. The staff does on SBB. I would say the elected officials more on WNDB, but a lot of information going on out there. You just got to know where to find it, and it's our job to direct people to it.
That's correct. We also have a city manager weekly update that's actually on our website every week, and it gives it an idea of all the departments and what we do.
That is a huge resource, absolutely. We've gotten to the point where we're telling people what sidewalks are getting done next week, what roads are getting paved, and I think that goes a long way to setting expectations, letting people know what's going on.
And that's the most important thing. We try to set that expectation up front, let them know what's coming, and it makes it a little bit easier to swallow if we have to put out news that maybe people won't like about it. So
absolutely.
But thank you, Jake. I'm so excited. I wrapped up my first episode, and you were my first guest.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Good luck with the rest of them. I think it is going to be fun, and hopefully you can wrap these up and get them up on iTunes and get a lot of, what are they? They're not called likes, subscriptions, I guess.
Subscriptions, that's correct, subscriptions. Yeah. And we're going to have a variety from community partners to department heads to employees. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit. So
Great.
Thank you, Jake.
Have fun.
So that wraps up our first episode. So until next time. Thank you so much for spending time with me today on the POG Show. We've only just begun, and with you sharing, subscribing, and leaving a 5-star review for this podcast is really going to help launch us to the next level together.